So let's use the calculator.
But everybody needs to get the calculator up on your computer. Can you raise your hand when you have it up? Hopefully everybody has a computer.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Again, this is what we created. The nice thing about this calculator is it's free. It also does a couple of things that we like, which is it calculates inflation, your real return, which is 1 plus nominal return divided by 1 plus inflation minus 1. So let's go in this.
But remember, you only enter stuff in the green.
Not in the blue.
Who wants to come up and help us with this? Ryan?
Yeah. Okay. We can always pick on Ryan.
He's on the end. He's easy to get up here, so. Okay. So imagine that in 1970, after Beach Boys, you put $10,000 on your bet.
So realize, and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if it's coming out of your pocket, which, he's putting it under his bed, you put a negative. So present value would be minus 10,000 right here.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So minus 10,000. Push return. Yeah, that's one. There you go. Okay, so now, do we want to ask what we want?
Yeah, not this one.
Okay, not this one, okay. So how many years did he have it under his bed? 55 years.
55 years.
55, right in this one.
Next one down.
That one, yeah, 55 years. So he had it under his mattress for 55 years. Okay, so now we want to know how much is the purchasing power.
How much payments a year, too?
Oh, how many payments per year? 1. So 1 payment per year.
Because it's an annual.
Because it's, it was just set there for 55 years. So put a return. Yeah, there you go. And remember, inflation was 4.04%. So inflation.
So come down to inflation rate.
Return.
Okay.
Now we want to know what the future value of that money, because we know the present value is 10,000. So we're going to calculate over here on the right hand side, where it says future value FV. So calculate future value.
So that $10,000
is now worth $1,132.35.
Facts about inflation. What is it? It's really just increase in prices or fall in the purchase. It makes your money is worth less. You guys know what inflation was last year? 2.9%. How about 2 years ago? 8.3%.
In 2022.
2022. What's the average? 1980, it was 13.5%.
That's a lot.
Remember, I was on my mission. And inflation was really high, and it was really hard for my dad to find work. But it seemed like every time he'd finish a job, the next day someone would come and say. I remember he did this one job, and he got to the end of the job, and the guy came up and said, "Sorry, Clint, I can't pay you." My dad said, "Fine." He says, I'm just going to take I want a note on your house and each of the other two people's house at 20% interest. And I'll just take a 20% note. And he made more money on that note of interest than he did on the business. But inflation has a major impact on us and our finances. What do we assume for long-term inflation? Probably somewhere between 2 and 4.5%. It's all yours.
Okay, so interest counteracts inflation. So when you get more money for your interest, and inflation is lower than what you're getting, then you're going to get more money from your investments, right? So on the long term, your interest must be higher than inflation in order for your investment to increase in the purchasing power. Okay, you do this.
Okay. So what's the bottom line? If your interest is not greater than inflation, you're losing money.
Oh.
So let's give some example here. This is what's called the log chart. Here to here is 10, here's to here 10. What do you notice about that chart? Is it generally upward sloping? Meaning,
generally.
Yeah, positive trend. So if you put $1, December of 1925, end of 2023, it would be worth 17 times. So inflation increased 17 times over that time period. If you put money in the light blue, which is about what you do with savings account. Sometimes you're a little bit more, you barely beat inflation. So you would have 22 bucks. If you put it in the yellow, which is kind of more your bonds, you'd have $150. And again, remember, this is almost 100 years. If you put it in large cap stocks, you'd have almost 15,000. If you put it in small cap, you'd have over roughly 50,000.
That's with just $1.
Yeah, $1. So what do you notice? And these things here are not individual stocks. This is not one stock. Where you're talking about large cap, you're talking about the 500 largest stocks. Small cap is not talking about one stock. It's talking about the 2,000 largest, 2,000 small stocks. So what these are portfolios of assets. So generally, what did we learn? Savings account generally don't beat inflation. Bond accounts beat inflation, but with a little bit of risk. Stock accounts, purple and dark, beat inflation by more, but also with more risk. And so what we have to do is we have to see how much risk are we willing to take. Okay, let's tell a story.
Okay.
Ryan and Rebecca. You know, Ryan was really excited. He had this truck. He paid it all. He was paid for it. He still owed $6,000. He got married. Just exciting, really fun. Life was good until it snowed. Needless to say, he had some black ice, and it totaled the truck. Not a fun position to be in, but luckily, insurance company came back, and they said the value of the truck was $18,000. So he got his $18,000, and he owed $6,000. So he had $12,000 left.
After he paid off the truck.
And so the question is, what's he going to do with that $12,000? And let's just not talk about 1 year. Let's talk about over 50 years.
And he's a newlywed. They're newlyweds right now.
Newlyweds. So what are some of their options? They could pay off the loan and buy a newer truck that costs $24,000. So now he increases debt.
By $12,000.
He could replace it, buy a similar truck. Now his wife has a car, so they can get by on one car. No change in payments. They could downside, pay off the loan, buy a less expensive car or truck. Or they could eliminate. They could say they pay off the loan, take $2,000 for their emergency fund, and put the $10,000 in the bank. Let's say at 2.5% interest. Or get along with one car, pay off the loan, put $10,000 in a bond fund, earning, say, 4.5%. Or get along with one car, pay off the loan, put $2,000 in an emergency fund, and put $10,000 in a diversified equity fund. Let's say they can make 7.5%. So finance allows us to ask those kind of questions. So let's kind of take a look at it. So the language of finance comes in. You know, here's our calculator. Ryan's already showed us how to use it. Critical thing here is if you want to know what the Excel formula is, right here. But your answer is always up at the top. So if you look at a snip like this, you can say, oh, the future value is, oh, I clicked on calculate future value. And then you can actually see what our inputs were. So here's what you do to download. To enable Excel, you download it from Canvas or the hyperlink. You find the file in your folder. So you go here to where the download is.
They already did this. They all already have it.
They already have it. Okay. Click on Properties, and then unblock and apply.
But if you want to go back and look and see how to do this, if you
Yeah.
want to remember later, you can go back to the slides and see it.
And then we created one in Excel. So on this calculator here, you can come over here. Here's a Google Financial Calculator. You can click on that. That will take you to this.
Why are you showing this?
Just file, make a copy. We'll just.
They already have it.
They already have it. So make a copy. Click on Claire. You have to authorize. You have to be signed up with a Google account, and you can actually use that there. Okay. Now we can start doing this. You want to pick someone else to come?
Yeah. Okay, who would like to come and help us? Who doesn't have a calculator or a computer? Anybody, does everybody have a computer in here? Okay. Jamie, you can come.
We'll pick on people on the
On the ends. Okay. So Ryan and Rebecca decide to pay off their loan, and they put $2,000 in an emergency fund. So they're going to put $2,000 in the bank, $10,000, sorry, $10,000 in the bank at 2.5% return. So what do we want? What are we trying to find out?
Future value.
The future value, yeah.
Oh,
So-
sorry. Sorry, you have to move the cursor over to my side. So future value, what do we have there?
So we already know that they're going to take out 10,000. They're going to put 10,000 in the bank. So it's minus 10,000. Good. And
50 years.
50 years.
one payment per year. Yeah. And the interest rate's 2.5. Interest rate and nominal rate are the same.
Yep.
And we're going to solve it for future value.
Okay, 34,000. Do you want to put it on my side?
Back over
Just for a
here.
second.
Just stay here.
Okay, 34,000.
Whoa. I'm clicking in, you're clicking.
Okay. Now let's do it again. I'm going to let you click. Now they're going to put
Wait,
that
wait, wait.
same $10,000. Now you don't have to clear it.
There we go, 34,000. Okay.
Okay, go to the next. You can do it. It's yours.
Okay. So we're going to clear this. Oh, we don't have to clear it. So you could just say, because right now they're going to put in $10,000 in a diversified index fund at 4.5%. So just change the 2.5.
This is a bond fund.
The bond fund. Change it to 4.5, yeah. And then collect and count for future value. Yeah. So now we have 90,000
90,000.
versus 34,000.
For 50 years, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah, 50 years. Well, we'll change it to 40 years and see what happens.
Wait. Okay.
You can change it to 40 years. Notice,
Okay, change
if you
that.
change it, once it's got the formula there,
Change that to 40.
now you got 58,000.
58,000.
But
So
hit
it's-
Control Z, and then we'll do the last one. We're just trying to make a point here.
Okay, so 90,000. So you get a lot more if it's only 10 more years.
I wouldn't push clear.
Not clear.
Let's go.
Okay, go over here. So we've got 90,000 now. Now let's say they put it in at 7.5% into a diversified stock index fund. So change.
So what do
that.
you think? What do you think they're going to do if you have an index fund that does 7.5%?
7.5%. This. Oh yeah, 50. Yeah, 7.5.
371.
371,000.
Okay, Jamie, thanks.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So just
Yes, we have a question.
And then if, for example, for the inflation rate, what if I want to add that? Is that going to give me the real amount?
So what's inflation going to be?
Or
4%. So what's the impact of inflation? You'd have 371. If inflation's there, you're going to have 52,000.
Huh, that's terrible.
But generally, but
more than 10,000.
yeah,
That's true.
But realize, generally, what have we seen? That the returns on the equity markets are generally 4 to 5.5% above inflation. So if inflation was 5%, generally we would see the markets generally return about 10.
So don't focus really on inflation, focus more on the return.
Yeah, we focus on that's what we do right now. We're more focused on the returns. So, but that's a good question. But is it nice having that tool here? So, and that's the point we want to make. That what are we trying to do? We're trying to give you a toolbox that you guys can use in your lives to help you solve and ask questions and then solve questions too.
So, the pickup choice value in 50 years. Finance helps you understand cool things. So, if he upgraded the truck and still had a loan, he has nothing in 50 years. If he replaced the truck and made with a used one, he still has nothing in 50 years. If he downsized with a less expensive truck, he still has nothing in 50 years. If he eliminated the truck and did it at the bank for 2.5, he got 34,371. If he eliminated the truck and did a bond index, he's got 90,000. If he eliminated and did the stock, he's got 371,000.
Okay.
This is in 50 years.
Is your interest rate your return? Does that make a difference? Yeah, it does. So let's move on.
Oh. So what is interest?
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
So, for example, in this case, they put it somewhere to 7.5%,
Uh-huh.
say mutual fund or something. But how can we find that that product is literally 7.5%? I think that's
Okay.
the hardest part of like
Okay.
inflation.
It is. And you kind of have to say, how is it done in the past?
And we're going to teach you about that
We're
when
going
we
to talk
get
about
into
that.
investing.
There's not a fund that gives you a guaranteed 7.5%. But what have equity markets done? The S&P 500, what did it do last year?
25%.
25%.
What
That's
did it do
weird.
the year before? 25%.
So
This
the
year
thing
it's
is,
already
if
up
you're willing-
4%.
if you're willing to take on a little bit of risk, and then if you follow correct
Yeah.
principles,
It's doing better. I mean, yeah, it's only
yeah,
at 4, but
you
it's
can
only
do better.
January.
Because I think
We're doing good.
that's what people thought about the mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
People was like, because I think S&P 500 is the trend we have right now, but I think the mortgage was the trend
Yeah,
in
well,
2008.
Right. So, and if you're like 2 and 3%, now you're up at 7 and 8%. So, a lot of things, a lot of uncertainties there. So the point here is, what are the principles that we follow? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be teaching you principles of successful investment and principles here. And then you'll have to apply those principles in your lives.
So a year ago, I opened up an account to get a CD, and I was getting 5% interest on my CD, my certificate of deposit, and you had to leave it in for a certain amount of time. Now I just reopened it because it matured, and I reopened it, and it's only like 4.1%. So it's less now, because their interest rates are coming down.
Yeah. So, but generally, what have we seen over the last 100 years? That the equity markets tend to generally about 4 or 5% over inflation. Okay. Let's get Najaraj. Can you come up and help us? Now, Najaraj wants to be a millionaire.
But we're talking about interest right now.
Right? We are.
Oh, okay. Come on up.
So we're going to say, the name's not Bill. This is Najaraj. He's 25. He wants to be a millionaire by age 55.
Okay.
So is that a question that we'd want to ask? So finance allows us to ask these questions.
Okay, so he
So what
wants
do we
to have
want,
a
first of all?
million. What do we want? We want to know how much he needs to save every
Month. So
month
we want to know
get
his,
$1 million in 30 years.
So what do we want? We want payments.
So we want to know what the payments are. So
Yeah,
let's
click over here so we can take it to
click
this
it
side.
here. Yeah, and then we just do.
Monthly payment. What do we have? Click on it again. Okay, now we do it.
Now
So
click over
we've got the number of years. Payments a year is 12. We've got an interest rate at 7%, and we've got a future value.
So we know that we want his future value to be $1 million. So put $1 million right there. 1000000. Okay. Return. There. Is it? Oh, it's 10 million. Take 1 0 off.
He's a little bit more aggressive.
Oh. One more. One more. Okay, now return. Yeah, 1 million. Okay. There you go.
How many
Okay.
years?
30 years.
And how many payments a year?
1 payment a year. No,
12 payments a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got it right.
All right, sorry.
And if you can make 7% a year,
So 7%, right? The nominal rate. Yeah, nominal. Yeah.
Yeah. okay, and then calculate what do we calculate?
Monthly payment. His payment right here.
Payments.
How many? Yeah.
So if Najaraj wants to be a millionaire in 30 years, he has to save $820 a year
Yeah. So what about?
or a month.
What about if he wants to be a millionaire in 40 years?
Now, you know,
What?
Najaraj he says, you know what, that's pretty good, but 800 seems a little bit longer. How about if we did 40 years? Now watch what happens there. Because it's just an Excel spreadsheet. 40, now push enter. Now notice, he only has to save $380.
So he's got 10 more years.
Let's say if he decides, well, maybe 50 years. Change that to 50 years. But now it's only $183.
Okay, Jamie.
If becoming a millionaire is this easy, why do we not have that much millionaires sitting outside?
Because it's a lot easier to see the math than it is to do it. A budget is just spending less than you make. How come people don't just save
if
money?
you just save money and invest it, you could be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you get.
Yeah.
That's why we used to tell people, and we don't say it so much anymore in this class, but we believe that if you follow what we teach, we'll save you $1 million in your lifetime, which is so easy to do because we waste so much money.
The average person can't account for 20% of their spending at the end of the month.
Is
and
that
we're just telling
amazing?
people, hey, once you get out of school, just keep good
10
records.
years? At 10 years, you got to save $5,000 a month.
Actually, it's not bad.
Oh, it's
Yeah, so realize over the last 90 years, 95 years, it's been like 9.7%.
so in 50 years, this is gonna be like $1 million club.
Yeah.
If everybody
absolutely.
here
If you guys
follows it.
save.
Crazy.
Although in 50 years, $1 million won't buy what it does.
That's right.
That's true.
So, but the
true.
point here,
That's right.
but isn't it interesting? We know God's work in His glory is immortality and eternal life of man. And what's His process for us? Agency. We get to choose. We choose by our actions. We choose where we're going to live. We choose who we're going to live with. We get to choose. His program is perfect. Mortality works. But we have to make the decisions. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we already figured this out.
Figured this one out.
We already did that. Okay, you're good. You're
Thanks.
good. Thank you.
So we're going to have to move.
Yeah, we're almost done.
Let's.
So remember, the only tool that is equally on everyone's side is time. And so that's why we're telling everybody to start saving after college.
Okay, let's do a little bit more with inflation.
Okay, we got another one.
I remember when I was young, I could buy a pack of gum for 5 cents. Wrigley Spearmint gum. What's the cost now?
Yeah, it's like, okay.
So let's look at this. Let's pick up one more. Yes, sir,
Troy.
you want to come up? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to have Troy come up.
Troy, come on up. Good news is you've got Sister Sudwigs there helping you, and she'll make sure that you get an A.
Okay. So what do we want? Okay, so we want to know how much Wrigley's gum is. Let's see.
How much
We
it's
wanna know.
increased.
How much has it increased in inflation over the last 60 years?
In this
what
case,
do we have?
interest and inflation is the same thing.
Let's see. Click.
So remember, if it goes out of your pocket,
So
it's negative.
right now, what do we have? We know that the number of years is 60. Oh, yeah, to clear this.
Yeah, well, you can clear that.
Yeah, just clear it. Okay. We know that the number of years is, we want to know 60 years, okay? One payment a year.
And it was minus 5 cents.
It was minus 5 cents in the present value.
Oh, minus 0.05.
0.05, yeah. Good job. Okay.
And now future value is 60 cents, so it's now 60 cents.
0.60.
Okay.
And we're going to solve for I. So we want to solve for the interest rate.
So how much has inflation, what was your annual inflation for a year, according to the Wrigley Spearmint gum?
It was
4.23%. Has anyone ever heard of the Big Mac index?
Okay. I think that's it.
You know, a lot of countries, the way they keep their inflation numbers, it's a little bit different. When I did investments, we used to look at the Big Mac index. Big Mac, is it consistent wherever you go?
Pretty much.
Yeah, well, pretty much. And then, so we've had Big Macs in China, in Vietnam,
Yep.
most of those places. But people will look and say, okay, what's the cost of the Big Mac in their currency? And then they can actually see what is the cost, and they can get an idea of inflation. So it's just interesting that we do these things. So, again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to teach you the language of finance. And time value of money just allows you to ask different questions that you couldn't ask otherwise.
But it's an eye-opener. Like how much money, if you save a little bit for a long time.
And Jamie's comment there, does that mean we can all be millionaires?
Yep, you can.
So the point here is we need to think through this. So read through the sections. Our next two class periods after this, all we're going to be doing is time value money calculation. So what are our takeaways?
Okay. So it takes, the gospel is a gospel of becoming more like Jesus Christ. it takes great faith to say we cannot afford it.
Okay, and it takes great faith when you can afford it, just to tell your kids, hey, we can afford it, but this is not important.